Most people think of risk as a cloud, a vague, foggy feeling of, what if this goes wrong? But to Musk, risk is a math problem. To solve it, you have to strip away the fog until you hit the bedrock. He calls this first principles thinking. In the early 2000s, when Musk decided he wanted to go to Mars, he went to Russia to buy a refurbished intercontinental ballistic missile. The Russians laughed at him. They quoted him $8 billion for 2 rockets. Most people would have walked away concluding that space is a game only for superpowers with infinite tax dollars. The analogy was clear. Rockets are expensive because they've always been expensive. But Musk went home and started a spreadsheet. He didn't look at the price of a rocket, he looked at the physics of a rocket. He asked, what is a rocket actually made of? Aluminum, titanium, copper, carbon fiber. He looked up the spot market prices for these materials. He realized that the raw material cost of a rocket was only about 2% of the sales price. Think about that for a second. If you're a chef and a steak costs $100, but the raw beef only costs $2, you don't say steak is too expensive to cook. You say the kitchen is being run by idiots. This is the first layer of the risk formula, the delta of inefficiency. Musk realized that the risk of SpaceX wasn't the cost of the materials. It was the risk of human error in the manufacturing process. If he could build a better kitchen, the cost of the steak would drop by 90%. By reasoning from first principles, he realized that the financial risk of starting a rocket company was actually much lower than the world believed. The world saw an $8 billion barrier to entry. Musk saw a $160 million material cost and a massive engineering opportunity. But knowing the physics isn't enough. You have to execute. In 2018, Tesla was facing production hell. The Model 3 was supposed to save the company, but the assembly line was a disaster. Musk was sleeping under his desk, waking up to the smell of burning rubber and the sound of robots crashing into each other. Out of that chaos, he codified a 5-step process. He calls it the algorithm. If you want to understand how he bets billions, you have to understand these 5 rules and the order they must be followed in. Step 1. Question every requirement. Musk found that engineers were following requirements from the safety department or the legal department. He told them, every requirement must come with a name. You cannot argue with a department, you can argue with a person. If a requirement doesn't have a name attached to it, it's fake. If it does have a name, that person is responsible for the risk of that requirement being wrong. Step 2. Delete the part or process. This is where the risk formula gets aggressive. Most managers want to cover their backs by adding more sensors, more checks, more safety nets. Musk does the opposite. He says, if you aren't adding back at least 10% of what you deleted, you didn't delete enough. At Tesla, they had a noise reduction mat in the battery pack. It was slowing down production. Musk asked if it was necessary. The engineers said yes, for safety. Musk asked for the data. There was no data. He deleted the mat. The cars didn't catch fire. The cars didn't get louder. The risk was a myth. And by deleting it, he saved the company. Step 3. Simplify and optimize. The most common mistake smart people make is optimizing something that shouldn't exist in the first place. Don't make a better bracket for a sensor if the sensor shouldn't be there. Step 4. Accelerate cycle time. Speed is a risk mitigation tool. This is counterintuitive. Most people think slow and steady is safe. Musk believes slow is the most dangerous thing you can be. If a rocket takes 10 years to build and fails, you've lost a decade. If it takes 10 weeks and fails, you've only lost 10 weeks. You have more tries left in your life. High-frequency failure is the path to low-risk success. Step 5. Automate. This is the final step. Never automate a process that hasn't been questioned, deleted, or simplified. Musk admitted he failed this step during the Model 3 ramp-up. He tried to automate things humans are naturally good at, like picking up a wiggly wire. He risked the entire company on alien robots before he had a simple process. He had to rip out the robots and bring in humans to save the line. To the outside world, a SpaceX rocket exploding on a landing pad is a billion-dollar disaster. To Musk, it's a cheap tuition fee. In the Musk risk formula, there is a massive distinction between expendable assets and knowledge assets. When Starship SN8 performed its belly flop maneuver and then slammed into the ground in a ball of fire, the headline said, "SpaceX rocket explodes." Musk tweeted, "Mars, here we come." Why? Because the asset that was destroyed, the stainless steel and the engines, was expendable. The knowledge, the data on how the flaps worked at subsonic speeds, was permanent. NASA spends billions to ensure the first flight of a rocket is 100% successful. This is risk aversion. SpaceX builds 20 rockets and expects the first 10 to blow up. This is risk management. If you spend $10 billion on one attempt, your risk of total program failure is high. If you spend $100 million on 100 attempts, your risk of total program failure is almost zero. Musk bets big on the system, not the individual event. He isn't betting that this rocket will land. He's betting that by the 10th rocket, we will have figured out how to land. Finally, we have to look at the man in the arena. Why do this? Why not take the $180 million from PayPal, buy an island, and never look at a spreadsheet again? Musk uses a framework popularized by Jeff Bezos, but taken to an extreme, the regret minimization framework. When he started SpaceX, he gave it a 10% chance of success. He literally expected to lose all his money. If you ask him why he did it anyway, he'll tell you, if something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. In Musk's risk formula, the greatest risk isn't going broke. The greatest risk is the light of consciousness going out. He views the future of humanity on a million-year timeline. In that context, his personal wealth is a rounding error. He has a unique ability to zoom out. Most of us are afraid of the risk of looking stupid, or losing our savings, or being criticized. Musk has survived all of those things simultaneously. He has been called a fraud, a failure, and a madman. By accepting those social risks as the price of admission, he gained the freedom to take the technical